Every pharmaceutical company is legally required to have a pharmacovigilance program, but most organizations build SOPs that leave critical gaps in exactly the three areas regulators scrutinize most: adverse drug reaction reporting, signal detection, and periodic safety update report submissions. Those gaps don't just create compliance risk, they can delay product approvals, trigger FDA warning letters, and in the worst cases, result in product withdrawals. Today, we will walk through the 7 essential components of a compliant pharmacovigilance SOP so your team knows precisely what is required and how to document it. Pharmacovigilance, sometimes referred to as drug safety monitoring, is the science and set of activities related to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effects of pharmaceutical products. Regulatory bodies, including the FDA and EMA, require that organizations have documented, auditable pharmacovigilance systems that align with ICH E2A through E2F guidelines. A well-constructed SOP is the foundation of that system. 7 components. Each one maps to a specific regulatory expectation. Miss any of them, and you have a gap that an inspector will find. The first component is a clearly defined purpose and scope statement. This section must specify which products are covered: pharmaceuticals, biologics, biosimilars, or combination products, and in which markets the SOP applies. A common gap here is a scope that is too narrow, excluding investigational products or products in late-stage clinical trials. Your scope should account for the full product lifecycle, from clinical development through post-market surveillance. Step 2 defines accountability. Your SOP must designate a qualified person responsible for pharmacovigilance, what the EMA refers to as the QPPV, or Qualified Person for Pharmacovigilance. Beyond that individual, the SOP should clearly assign responsibilities to regulatory affairs, medical affairs, clinical operations, and quality assurance. Ambiguity in this section is one of the most frequently cited deficiencies in PV inspections. Every function must know what they own and when they must act. Step 3 covers the core of pharmacovigilance: adverse drug reaction identification, documentation, and reporting. Your SOP must define the sources your team monitors: spontaneous reports, clinical trial data, scientific literature, and digital health platforms. It must also establish your timelines. For serious unexpected suspected adverse reactions, or SUSARs, the FDA requires expedited 15-day reports. Fatal or life-threatening SUSARs require 7-day alerts. Your SOP should include a decision tree that removes ambiguity from these reporting timelines so your team acts correctly every time. Step 4 addresses signal detection, the process of identifying potential safety signals from aggregate adverse event data. Your SOP must describe the methodology your organization uses, whether that is proportional reporting ratio analysis, Bayesian data mining, or a manual clinical review process. It must also define your escalation pathway. At what threshold does a potential signal require formal evaluation? Who reviews it? What is the expected turnaround? Signal detection is increasingly under regulatory scrutiny, particularly with the expansion of real-world evidence requirements. Step 5 covers risk management. Once a signal has been evaluated and confirmed, your organization is required to develop and implement a risk management plan, or RMP, in accordance with EMA Module 5 guidelines and FDA's risk evaluation and mitigation strategies, or REMS requirements where applicable. Your SOP should document how RMPs are developed, reviewed, approved, and updated over time. It should also define how risk minimization activities are communicated to healthcare professionals and patients. Step 6 addresses periodic safety reporting, PSURs, or periodic benefit risk evaluation reports, known as PBRERs under ICH E2A, are submitted to regulatory authorities on a defined schedule and represent a comprehensive assessment of your product's benefit-risk profile. Your SOP must specify your PSUR preparation workflow, data lock timelines, internal review and approval process, and submission deadlines by market. A failure to submit PSURs on schedule is one of the most common causes of regulatory action for post-market pharmaceutical products. Step 7 brings it all together. Documentation and continuous improvement. Your pharmacovigilance SOP is a living document. It should specify your record retention requirements, typically a minimum of 10 years for post-market safety data, your periodic SOP review cadence, and your process for incorporating lessons learned from regulatory inspections, internal audits, and signal evaluations. Continuous improvement is not just a best practice, it is a regulatory expectation. FDA and EMA both require evidence that your PV system is being actively monitored, reviewed, and updated. Implementing these 7 components gives your organization the foundation for a pharmacovigilance program that satisfies both FDA and ICH E2A through E2F requirements. A well-constructed SOP is not just a compliance document, it is the operational backbone of your entire drug safety program. eLeaP's validated QMS manages the full SOP lifecycle: drafting, approval, version control, and automatic training deployment when the SOP is revised. Every person who performs a pharmacovigilance activity has a documented, version-specific training record, the audit trail regulators ask for. If you found this useful, download our free pharmacovigilance SOP template. The link is in the description below. And if you have questions about building your drug safety program, leave them in the comments.